Okay, so today let's talk about the new Porsche GT3, so the 992.2. As we can see here on the first screenshot, Porsche got their plate right, 992.2. So I think they had some good connection here to get some good plates. We have a lot of video on the internet showing details about the car. I personally watched the video from Top Gear, from Chris RS, from the Porsche official reveal. And Chris here also even made us some special photos that will really point exactly what's changed on the car, so you can know all about it. So Chris, I think let's get started with the new GT3.
Yeah, so for the first time in the GT3's history, this is going to be the eighth model in the GT3 line, all the way across all four generations.
Yeah, they actually had lined them up here like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. They had them all on the front screen.
Yeah, so for the first time, I mean, they're also introducing a GT3 Touring model alongside the standard GT3 in the GT3 range's 25-year history. Strangely enough, I mean, the presentation, the general response that I've seen across the Porsche community is, it was over pretty quickly with just about 20 minutes. And for a GT3 model, they missed out on mentioning specifics about any they didn't mention any specific figures with regards to aero upgrades, or any Nürburgring time, for example, which is pretty things that matter a lot to the Porsche faithful. None of that was mentioned in the presentation.
I think the presentation like was a couple of cinematics, but it felt like they wanted to keep a lot of things kind of uncovered. I mean, I was surprised to go online and see actually the other YouTube channel had better access, better information. The Porsche press release or press intro felt pretty weak and pretty low budget. I mean, we saw the program director like just in the garage pretty much here. Like there's no GT3 sign. They pretty much just uncover a couple of GT3 car. They cover the others, not even all the others. We can actually see other car in the back they didn't even cover. I think they didn't even move the car out of their parking. I mean, the other car here looked like normal cars. So it's pretty low budget release. And I think even for saying, oh, this is the first time we unveil like two GT3, like pretty much GT3 and Touring. I can't even believe that they decided to put any emphasis on this, saying, oh, it's the first time in the world. I mean, it was very thin. I think it would have been a lot nicer for them to focus like on the appearance really package changes that they have made, and I think they even didn't detail much of the technical yet. So I think we're gonna have a whole second layer of this. I think this video is gonna be more of the appearance and a couple of announcements, and I think we'll have another video to detail more the technical stuff.
The good part about the GT3, the 992.2, I mean, like generally the .2 models are all about refining, an already established formula. We saw a big jump with the 992. I mean, that was pretty substantial, where they brought back things like the manual, etc. But here, I mean, thankfully they've retained the naturally aspirated flat six engine, the 4-liter. I mean, people were scared that if they're going to take the hybrid route, and we also still have manuals, be it a 6-speed manual. So that's something that's still there.
Let's see a little bit about the outside difference, but I agree with you that there was all sorts of rumor about being scared about what could they do to mess up the GT3, and pretty much it was a whole big nothing burger. The car is pretty much exactly the same with some very, very subtle refinement. Here we can see on the top the first gen 992, and the bottom the new one. I really would love to see people being able to spot the differences without really be Porsche expert. I think we can really, I would have to point them out. Like let's say the turn signal in the front have been removed from the new generation, but even like the shape of the bumper remained the same. So it's impossible to tell. And on the back here on the corner, the reflector is a little bit more at the bottom of the bumper, while on the white car it's actually on the top. Here we have the zoom, but we can see here like it's a lot higher up. Aside of that, it's almost like impossible to tell the difference
I
between the
mean,
two cars. I don't even know. Can you mention one more? I don't know. The roll cage, I
yeah,
guess. There is a roll cage now in the back.
yeah. I mean, like if you move on to the next couple of slides, I've specifically highlighted, changes that have taken place up front. I mean, you can had to brighten up the 992.2 quite significantly to highlight those carbon blades up front. You can see the air intake is far more substantial. And you also get new headlights, which are borrowed straight from the 992.2 Carrera. You saw that design back in May when the Carrera launched. But aside from that, I mean, you have the optional Weissach package now for the first time on the GT3, and something known as the Lichtbau, which literally translates to lightweight in German. You have that package on the GT3 Touring. So you have
On
these
the
optional
touring, yeah.
packages. So you'll find a lot more carbon elements. You can see it also on the hood. You can see it on the front bumper. You can see it on the mirror caps and also extending over the roof. So up front, these are the basic cosmetic changes that you can see up front.
And I think I want to underline about the Vesak package or like Bao package, and we'll talk about it at the end about the new price of the car. I think that those cars, the 992, had incredible price markup at the dealership or for resale, and it really felt like Porsche realized that people are ready to pay a lot more money for the base GT3, and so honestly, they are putting a lot of options that are not going to make much difference outside of, yeah, the car will be nicer, but they're going to add substantial,
Yeah.
price markup on the car. Like all those carbon fiber parts are going to be really, really expensive. And I think we're going to see base GT3, once they are optioned out, be really expensive. So not only the base price is very expensive, but I'm sure the dealership are going to ask you now, instead of, I think before they were marking up the price, let's say you want a car for 100,000, they ask you to pay 200. And this time they're going to do the more regular dealership thing, which is you have the car that's 100,000, but they're not going to let you configure the car without those packages. Like if you look at the amount of GT3 RS that are for sale, they almost all have the Weissach package, which is $100,000 plus, because the dealership doesn't even let you order those cars without it because they make a ton of money on it. So those are a lot of niceties, but I think that's going to boost the price of the car even more, unfortunately. But I like the new design in mainly about the bumper removing the turn signal. I think this is gonna be a nice thing for people who want to track their car. They're gonna be able to remove the bumper more easily, a little bit less connection here, and having it on the headlight make it more and more clean, really close to like the race car every time they go forward. I mean, if you look at that car, I mean there's really like nothing you can see on a road car aside the racing part. I mean, they have the headlight, but they don't have like fog lights. No, they don't have any more turn signal. It's actually too bad that they have a front plate on this one, because on the US model, hopefully on most states, you're not going to have the front plate, and the car's going to look very, very racy. So I think all the additions look cool.
Yeah, in the Top Gear reveal, I mean, in the Top Gear video, the race, the GT3 director explicitly mentioned you've now got four flavors. Just like before, you got four flavors of the GT3: manual, automatic, and touring, and the hardcore track version. So the GT3 is now leaning more and more towards the RS, whereas the GT3 Touring is leaning more towards the ST. So that's the distinction, that they're both going in different directions compared to before. So they each
Yeah,
have
I
their
think
own
in
market.
terms of package, I think what was interesting in the light bow package is that they
Yeah,
are really trying to steer the touring into ST territory by giving it the you can option out the magnesium wheel like here, which was
yes,
apparently a big ST special thing. A lot of the carbon fiber thing that were inside of it, and I think in the interview was interesting. Was pretty much saying that. They want you, and they have done it many times with the 911R and even the 997 4-liter. It was a big deal to have 4-liter, and then the next car had 4-liter. So they usually make a special edition, but the way we're speaking about it was interesting. They knew that a special edition will retain their value. People pay for it and give it like almost as a gift to special customer. But whatever they come up with in terms of engineering, they always plan to make a larger scale model right after. And I think that's a very good point, that the ST, which was all the craze for the past 2 months on social media on test drive, now pretty much they're gonna tell you, okay, you wanted the ST, and now you have it. So the marketing campaign is always like perfectly adjusted. I think it goes same thing for the numbering record or the technical specs. I mean, they're gonna like drip down, drop by drop, all the information about
In
this
fact,
car until the next model.
In fact, he explicitly mentioned if you missed out on getting the ST, and the ST was the top of the line model, $290,000. The Touring right now is 85% ST under the skin. So I mean,
Yeah.
this is your chance to actually get your hands on an ST at at a slightly more lower price point.
Yeah, and actually that was interesting because I think the Top Gear host asked the program director, yeah, what's the percentage of an ST in a Touring, and I was thinking, oh man, like he's certainly gonna try to avoid that question and say no, they are different and whatever, and he actually said yeah, 85%. So I think I was surprised by the answer here about how candid they were about this. Okay, so let's move on with the outside stuff. I mean, here again, here side by side, pointing more on the back element. I think
Yeah.
one thing, for example, again, it's like they say the side plate are
Okay.
different. It's really hard to tell. I mean, honestly, even me, just the design of it is slightly different, but it doesn't bring much. Actually, for me, I don't know if we have a back of the car. Yeah, for me, actually,
Yeah.
almost the biggest difference is the back, where they literally changed the light bar goes now from end to end as like two parallel line. So before we had the paint that was bumping up a little bit with the Porsche sign, and now they changed
Yeah.
it. So again, they're integrating everything from the 992.2 in this car. But still, overall, very small changes. I mean, I personally almost love. It's almost laughable how they changed the reflector. They were here,
Yeah.
now they put them here. It's
They put
very
it
typical
slightly.
of any kind of mainstream car differences. So very very small changes on the outside. I think on the inside we have one again insignificant difference that but people are gonna be talking a lot about this is that they're actually getting
Yeah.
rid of the physical tachometer that was there, which was a very interesting thing. I don't think there's any other car that had a full digital display and kept just one like physical display, and they actually got rid of it on the new car. So I think this, as we saw, has its advantages where they actually can make a bunch of more configuration on the center dash. I think I read somewhere that some customer were complaining that I guess people were a little bit taller actually had a hard time to read the tag display on the previous version. So I think it's all for the best. I think that tag thing was interesting, but I mean, you want to keep up with the tech and have the latest and greatest and be able to customize this. And a little bit like the old Mustang now, you can actually have a touch of vintage in your car where they can turn the tachometer on the side and have the 10,000 limit rev like right on the top here, like the old race car where people used to twist the tachometer. So I think they played it really well. I don't know if we have a photo, so yeah, this close shot this, and I think the next big thing really is that start and stop button where all the
Yeah.
992 are receiving the new push start, and for the GT3 and the Touring they are keeping like
Just the Touring.
it's not even a key. It's a button where you can actually twist to keep that twist starting mechanism. So it's actually funny, and I'd love to see if people on the forum are going to jump and trying to see if they can buy those parts to retrofit it in their car. They're going to take it out and take it back in. I'm sure that's what they're going to do. But yeah, it's nice to see that they're thinking about having some special touches to those cars at least. So I thought that was really nice to think that they're just not applying the entire interior of the 992. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the seat?
Yeah, so it's an 18-way adjustable seat, but there's one big change this year. I mean, this is based again on customer feedback, where they have a removable headrest now so that it can accommodate a helmet. So this is something that Porsche has been speaking with the current owners on what changes they want, and this is a feature. This is limited to so it's now the GT.
Yeah, I think the like those seats are great, but yeah, once you have a helmet and the helmet really budge in the back of your head, it's hard
Ergonomics. Yeah.
sometimes to have a straight up position. So I think this was a really good idea, especially those seats don't really have a lot of reclining adjustment or not at all. You can just split them, but I think that was pretty smart and fancy. It feels a little bit more like a gimmick from cheaper cars, but of course
Yeah.
because the GT3 and you got all the racing cred behind it. It actually looked pretty nice. I think they brought back the foldable bucket seat, which is really practical, so that you can actually have access to the back of the car. And here
The
we see
touring model
actually the rear seat. Yeah.
the touring model now has optional rear seats, so this was previously unavailable. I mean, the name says touring, so I mean, it actually begs for inclusion of rear seats. I mean, with most 911s, I mean, it's a no-cost option anyway that they throw in the rear seats again. With the 992 generation, with the Carrera, for example, doesn't have rear seats, so it's a no-cost option. I think
Yeah.
that where they added back.
Yeah, I think there was some really interesting background on this, is that a lot of people were buying Touring and trying to retrofit the car. I see on the forums, and there was literally some anchor point that were missing on the shell. So it really required a lot of work to do this. And by watching again the engineer talking about it, we understand a little bit more why, and maybe also why they also made the folding seats, because the rear crash test not only require a bunch of stuff for this car, but I think it's mainly the seats that were a problem, because they need to have a certain resistance of people pushing the seats. And I think that most likely the one-piece seat, did not comply. They could potentially crack or something. I don't know. But those two things go hand in hand. They needed, I think, to have those foldable seats to work on the compliance, and in order to add the back seat. I mean, at first, everybody could have thought, Porsche is just annoying. They're just not thinking people in the back, and they're just going too extreme. But I think there was some real engineering and legal compliance reason, and that's why it took them so long to do it. I think that's going to be a big thing, especially those seats are really expensive. So just retrofitting the back seat is hard. But now that people just actually are learning that the front seat could be a problem in terms of a crash, those owners may really be thinking about selling their car and buying this one if they don't want the rear seat. So always interesting to hear the story about how things are complicated, how things that seems relatively simple on the outside. And I think they're bringing finally the rear roll cage. I'm still curious to see if it's gonna come to the US, because very often those rear roll cage are not making it to the US market. So I think they were hinting that it's gonna come to the US market, but I don't think I already heard. Yeah, it's gonna come to the USA. Most of the interview I saw were guys coming from Europe.
They were pretty vague. I mean, so this carbon fiber roll cage is going to be part of the WISAC package, and a no-cost club sport package will give you a steel roll cage. Now, typically 992.1 GT3 owners were looking at the aftermarket, and I looked at the prices. They range anywhere between $2,500 to almost $7,000 if you want to look into the aftermarket to have retrofitted.
Yeah, I mean, the carbon fiber roll cage looked really awesome. I think it's great that they are doing it, because obviously they have the technology, and I think we start seeing them coming up on other cars. And I think when you buy those cars, I mean, very often people buy them almost for the object. So I mean, I think the look of it for me is absolutely fantastic, even if the price is, I'm sure, outrageous. I mean, if money is no object, which most people buying those cars, money is no object, I think this look super fantastic. So that's pretty cool to look at. I think that's the main thing we wanted to talk about. After that, we literally want to talk about the difficult issue of the pricing, because even though the car looked pretty much strictly the same, we have a crazy price bump. I think we skipped a little bit on some of the drivetrain details. I think the only detail I heard were gear ratio and suspension, right?
Yeah, there were shorter gear ratios, which will obviously result in better delivery of power, and some chassis and suspension tweaks, which add more grip to the front axle, close to 88 pounds of grip. So besides that, there's not much in the name of the new car is in fact slightly heavier. I mean, if you look at the table, there's no change in the horsepower, only the torque is slightly lesser, and it's actually heavier than the 992.1, just by a nudge.
Yeah, it would be really interesting to see the transmission. I think just to speak a few words about it, a lot of people have been complaining that, especially with the manual transmission, that the gear were too long, so that as soon as you were on the thing in first gear, you were going like 80, 90 miles an hour. In second gear, you were going 120. So you really could not enjoy playing with the gears. And I think people were praising actually the GT4 RS for this, having shorter gear, being able to play. And a lot of the consensus in the forums were that even though you want to buy a manual car, they were saying for the GT3 you should buy the PDK for that simple reason. The PDK gear were a little shorter because they have more of them, and you can change them really quickly. So as much as people love the manual gearbox, it felt like it was not a great solution because the car is too fast. So having the gears a little shorter, I think I'm really curious to see what that's gonna do. But just like the rear seat in the Touring, the gear and the rear seat may actually make that car a lot more appealing for people who want to enjoy their car on the road and not just on the track. For the track, the GT3, I think it's fine to have long gears, but for the road, I think it would be a big addition. So I think those things remain to see the test drive. People really going on the street with it, but it may be bigger than we think. Okay, so yeah, the last touch point, the price, really is like those cars have been not selling at MSRP anyways, so it's really hard to compare things. But yeah, they were around 160,000 MSRP. I don't know even if the most VIP customer will get the allocation at first. I really doubt that they were able to skip the markup. Porsche, obviously, I can only imagine their frustration of thinking that they're not taking the money in their pocket because the dealership is taking that margin. So I think it's I'd rather have the Porsche guys have it, because that way they can have more money to make better product in the future. I think having just the local dealership making a ton of money on those cars is really counterproductive. They were obviously underpricing those cars, but price never go down. So now that we are on $200,000 plus, yeah, the GT3 doesn't look like it's gonna go back down soon, and we know what this does to the used car market. So now that all the used GT3 are gonna get yet another bump in pricing. I think the only good part of it is hopefully now that Porsche must be making a ton of profit on those cars, hopefully they'll make more of them so at least people can buy them. Because right before that, I think again the dealer pocketing the money, there was not such a big incentive for them to produce them if the margin was not so good. But now that they're gonna make money like bandits, I think between this price bump and all the VSAC package and all the different package that they're adding on top of it, I think we've been talking before in the previous article about Porsche making around 6,000 of those GT3 every year compared to 2,000 before. I would not be surprised that in the next 2 years they're gonna make maybe double that, and if they do, that could actually really impact the value of those cars and maybe make them slightly more accessible in some kind of way.
Yeah, current values, I mean, excluding MSRP, I mean, just the outgoing model started, as you mentioned, at 160. I mean, and right now it starts at 220, 222, 225. Excluding markups, this is just the base price. But where the 992.1 GT3 actually sits as it is 260. That's what Classic.com says. That's where the current average price is sitting at right now. So it's hovering in that area. So it's already considerably more than the GT3 RS's MSRP of 240, 241. So
Yeah.
I mean, with the YSAC package, generally, I mean, Porsche didn't mention how much it costs, but on the RS, it's around 30,000. So if you 220 plus the markup plus the YSAC package and all of these add-ons that you just spoke about, so it's nudging much higher and higher up. We don't know what it's going to do to the 992.1.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll keep some base model for sale. I mean, curious to see how the cars are gonna come up. I'm sure they're gonna be super option, but yeah, it's funny like that markup goes match very closely to the what, as you mentioned, the Classic.com resale value of the 992 first generation, pretty much. Almost like if they looked, okay, how much are those cars actually selling on the market? Let's just line up with this, and it seems to be the price point that customers are ready to pay for the cars. So yeah, I guess that's the bad news. I mean, there was very little chances for the car to actually lose their markup. They've been already for sale for a few years now. and the
Yeah.
markup has not gone down at all. So, you know, I think really that's the new price, but it's definitely still shocking. You know, pre-COVID, you could buy those cars around, you know, 110,000, 115, something like that. And, you know, suddenly 4 years later, they almost double the price. Like a lot of cars. I was just looking this week about the Jeep Gladiator, for example. They had a Mojave edition that they sell for $65,000 right now, and
Yeah.
they realize that they are not selling, so they give big discounts. And instead of $65,000 MSRP, they sell for $45,000 at the dealership. So you think, wow, it's a big discount. The only thing is that before COVID, that car was $44,000 MSRP. That is just the real price of the car. So I think everything went to crazy price demand. So I don't know, maybe it will come down at some point.
You've really got to be careful with those Jeeps because they've been sitting on dealer lots for several months at this point. And I've seen
Yeah.
some Jeeps, with like, I mean, they've been out and about, yeah, in the element sitting for a long time. So you've got to be very careful.
Yeah. Which is lucky for Porsche, not the case of the GT3. But again, if you want to look more into it, we made an article a few days about, you know, is the GT3 really the best car, or is it a little bit like a double-edged sword? I think just to conclude on that, I mean, if you want to buy a GT3 car, should really look at it, look in a critical perspective about it is the ultimate GT3, but if you're not tracking the car, if you're not living in a place where you have those big long stretch of road in Montana, in Utah, things like this, you may want to ask yourself, you know, can I really stretch the leg of that car? If not, if you live in a compact, in a dense area, city-like and things like this, the GTS or the Turbo are actually much better car because you can actually enjoy more torque and have more fun at reasonable speed. The GT3 really needs a lot of space to play. So as much as it's really the coolest sounding car and the most exclusive you can get, it's not for everyone. So if they keep on ramping up the production, I think we're going to reach a spot where we may end up having too many of those cars. There are really a handful of people. I think before COVID, like you had like a few hundred guys who literally would drive those cars. Now suddenly they are in the thousands. I don't know. I'm curious to see what's going to happen in next few years if you have too many of those cars out. But anyways, thanks for watching. We'll get back on another follow-up. I'm sure as soon as we get more information from all the drivetrain and the cool Nürburgring record that are coming around. Chris, anything we missed before we hang it there?
No, that's about it. I think we've touched upon everything on the 992.2 GT.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thanks, and see you later.
All right. Take it easy.